Welkom allemaal. Welkom bij de lezing van Andrea Mauri. Mijn naam is Irma van Bergen-Bravenboer. Ik ben vanuit de gemeente Rotterdam betrokken bij de Kenniswerkplaats Urban Big Data. En wij zijn de verbinding tussen de Erasmus Universiteit, de gemeente en andere kennisinstellingen rondom het thema Urban Big Data. Normaal gesproken zou Vadir Zalla hier ook zijn. Hij is de coördinator hiervan en heeft samen met mij deze lezing georganiseerd. Maar kon er helaas niet bij zijn wegens onderwijsverplichtingen. Vandaag dus een lezing van Andrea. Hij is onderzoeker bij de TU Delft, specifiek bij Web Information Systems. Ik vind het zelf een heel interessant onderwerp, want vandaag gaat het over data die de gemeente niet heeft. En normaal zijn we binnen de gemeente bezig met datagedreven werken. En gaat het allemaal, hoe kunnen we onze eigen data nou inzetten om ons beleid zo goed mogelijk te doen. En vandaag gaat het ook over jongeren, een specifieke groep spookjongeren die in onze systemen niet bekend zijn. Dus die geen onderwijs volgen en die ook niet werken. En deze groep heeft vaak wel hulp nodig. Dus we moeten kijken naar andere manieren waarop we deze jongeren in contact mee kunnen komen en ook kunnen helpen. En het komende uur zal Andrea meer over zijn onderzoek vertellen, hoe hij social media en specifiek Reddit heeft gebruikt om meer te weten te komen over deze specifieke groep. Dan nog één laatste huishoudelijke mededeling voordat hij gaat beginnen. Het wordt opgenomen vandaag, deze lezing, zodat andere mensen het ook later kunnen terugkijken. Mochten jullie vragen hebben, steek dan even je hand op, want dan geef ik jullie de microfoon, zodat ook de vraag wordt opgenomen en die ook goed hoorbaar is voor de mensen thuis. Dan wil ik jou naar voren roepen.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction. So, thank you very much for inviting me here to give this presentation, and thank you very much for finding time to come and listen to me. So today we'll talk about study. So how can social big data be used to help and understand the vulnerable young people? So this study was done in the context of a bigger project. It's an NVIDIA-funded project called Join, and in particular, our work package is about big data for youth policy. And the bigger research question that we try to answer is to what extent new data sources and analytic techniques can be used for better describe and analyze the spookjongeren. So spookjongeren are these young people that, for some reason that we don't know, disappear from records. And for this reason, they can be target of criminality, illegal activity, poverty, and so on. Now, in this project, I'm not alone, of course, but I work with colleagues from TU Delft, Alessandro Bozzon and Achilles Psalidi, that is here with me in audience. Then with colleagues from Erasmus University, Lisbeth Van Zonen, Jelly, and Jason Pridmore, and with Sarah Gies from the Leiden University. So, which is our general approach? So we want to understand better the spookjongeren. We don't know nothing about them. We don't have any clue of what they talk about, what are their needs. So we needed a way to have some hooks to better understand them. So we looked around, and there are the so-called needs. Needs stand for people that are not engaged in education, employment, or training. And these two sets have an intersection, because on one side we have the so-called identified need. Because, for instance, if you are unemployed, you can get unemployment benefits. And for this reason, you appear in some kind of official records. We know about you, and these are the identified needs. Then most probably there are some Spokjongeren that are actually needs. So they don't work, they are not in education, but we don't know anything about them. And then most probably there are also a fraction of Spokjongeren that maybe they are actually working. Maybe they do some, if they are illegally working because they are not registered, they are not anywhere. So our idea was, okay, can we, starting from the so-called identified needs, peer to the unknown? So can we, starting from features that are owned by the identified need, try to understand better the unknown? And to do so, we looked at social media, because our project is about how such a big data can help us to do this. And classic social media, so if you think about Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn, you can access to their data in 3 different ways. You can look at location, like looking at all posts in a city or in a bounding box or in a region. You can look by keywords. So I can look all the Instagram posts that are about cats, for instance. Or user, I can look at my profile, I can look at Achilles' profile on Instagram and see his picture. Now, the problem with the needs is that we don't know where they are. In particular, we don't know any location in which, okay, if we look there, we found all the needs or all the Spokjongeren. We don't know what we talk about. I mean, we have some hints. They are young people, so maybe they talk about sports, they talk about computer games, but there isn't a topic in which I can say, okay, if I look for this topic online, I found need of Spokjongeren. And then, of course, the last is quite obvious. We don't know who they are, and usually on social media, they don't go around saying, hey, look at me, I'm a NEET, I don't work. Because, of course, there is some kind of negative connotation attached to this label. But there is an online platform called Reddit. I don't know if you're kind of familiar with the website. She's nothing. And it started as an aggregation platform for news. Basically, people could go there and post news that is online. Now it kind of evolved. So basically, people create sub-communities according, it can be topic related, it can be geographical related. There is also a bit of the Rotterdam city or the whole Netherlands. There are topics about, you see here, there is like news, NBA and stuff. So people post, like a forum posts some text content on multimedia content, people comments and so on. And interestingly, there is a specific place for NEET to meet. There is a subreddit, this is what we call the community on Reddit, the RNEET community, and there people that self-identify as NEET go there and discuss about the problem and daily life and so on. So the idea is that, and this is an example of post. So this guy is actually looking for help, so becoming homeless soon, any tips? And this is just an example to show you how rich is this information. For instance, here we have, I am a 21-year-old male, demographic information. We know about, after finishing high school, I drop out from college, education information. I know health information because he's telling us that he's been diagnosed with ADHD, and autism. He described his social environment, problem with the family, not very good friends that were doing criminal stuff, and so on. So there is a lot of opportunity here to better understand them. And in fact, this study here, it's about to what extent Reddit data can complement, and this is an important word because it's so symbolic here, conventional source in the study of needs. And how we did this study? First, we look at the literature about needs, and we try to understand which attributes were studied by related works, by social science studies. And also, which were their conclusions. So which were the risk factor, and what the risk of being on it, and so on. When we performed the actual credit analysis, we compare it with the official records to see what kind of differences were there, and try to understand, okay, are these differences due to errors? Like, okay, I cannot use Reddit in any way because the population is totally different, or the differences are a symptom of something more deep. And then we also interview some ex-NITs to have a better global picture of what was happening. So literature about the NITs. Usually they study the demographic, gender and age. They study the education level. They study the residential status, that is, where do they live, is a rural area, urban area, they live at home, they live with the partner, with family, and so on. Do they have some health issue? And also social capital. So do they have friends where they hang out? Are they interested in politics, and so on? And what they concluded in general, okay, this study are very broad in the sense that usually they are aimed to a specific country. So you can find, probably you're more expert than me about these studies, but usually they are country related. So they study the NEET in the UK, the NEET in France, NEET in Italy, and so on. But in general, more or less, they have the same conclusion. So the main risk factors are having low education, having low social capital, and having health issue. And in general, females are more at risk than males to become NEETs. Another thing that many studies agree with is that the NEETs are a very heterogeneous group. We attach this label to the group, the NEET label, but actually the person that are labeled in this way, they are very, very different. And I will come back to this later in the presentation. So how we did our analysis? Our analysis has two main steps. One step is a top-down step, in the sense that we look at the posts, at the content of the post, and we try to extract information from them by looking at pattern in the text. So from this text, we want to understand, okay, demographic, for instance. So from here, I can automatically extract age information, the gender information, and for instance, the fact that he dropped out from college. Another thing that we can do, always top-down, is to look at where a person posts. There are some specific communities that can be quite safely linked to a specific gender. So for instance, the Girls Survivor Guide is mainly where female post, male fashion advice, male people post, and Air Trans is mainly where trans people post. And also we have some subreddit, some community about a specific health issue. So for the gender attribute and the health attribute, we also try to use this information. Another analysis that we did was more a bottom-up approach. So basically, we took all the posts, and we tried to see if they talk about some specific topic. And we use these topics to then try to find if some specific group of NEET appears. How we evaluated our approach? For the first, we used the state-of-the-art information retrieval metric called precision, which is basically the fraction of extracted mention that actually correct refer to the attribute. So if I find a mention that is, I am 20 years old, we know that is actually talking about age, but maybe sometime our system, our methods extract something like I am 20, and it was something else, like because it was a post about gaming, and it was saying, oh, I'm a 20 level of this game. And the automatic approach will not actually separate it. So we have this way to evaluate this correctness. Then we came up with other two metric, disclosure and coherence. Disclosure is the percentage of users that actually disclose information about an attribute. So you want to see how openly people talk about something. And coherence is the fraction of users that not state contradicting information in the text. This was meant to measure how can we trust people on Reddit. And how we collected the data. We started from the neat subreddit. We collected all the submissions, so both posts and comments from that subreddit. And then for each author of that post, we collected their submission in other subreddit in order to see where in Reddit he was or she was commenting and posting. And in the end, we collected a total of 264,000 submission, 32,000 posts and 200 something comments from 700 unique users. And the time span of this data set goes from May 2011 to December 2018. Now, this is, we show you some results from the first part of the study, so the top-down one, so trying to detect the attributes from both the text and where the people were posting. So for the gender, the precision was above 90%, so quite satisfying. And 27% of people actually disclose information about their gender, with a quite high coherence. And I don't ask you to read the actual number, but the majority of them were male. The age, 97% of precision, and more than 30% of people actually shared information about the age. We have, as expected, we have a peak between the 19 to the 25. We have a smaller peak in the 30, but interesting enough, we have the age actually go also over the 40s. So there are some people that identify as NEET that are 40-something years old. Regarding the education, we have 90% of precision, and 70% of people talk about their education. In general, more than half, they actually attained some kind of certification. So we have, I have a percentage later, but more than half got college, graduated from college and from high school. Regarding the health, the precision was a little less, but still above 80%. And interestingly, that more than 40% of them declare of suffering of some kind of health issue. And mainly was about mental health. The top mentioned one is anxiety, depression, and autism. And also if we look where they posted about it, it was about depression, Suicide Watch, that is basically a community for support to people that want to suicide, social anxiety, and others. Now, regarding the living context of the residential status, we analyzed the residential status, the isolation, and where. The disclosure is 26% of people actually talk about this in total. Most of them live with family and in a rural area. I mean, there are not big difference and big number, but this is what we have. And then, as expected, actually, most of them come from the US and then Europe. Okay, then, for the second part of the study, so the so-called bottom-up, we used a technique called topic modeling. Now, this is a very short story what topic modeling is, because I don't think that you are familiar on this. So topic modeling is basically a statistical method to group text documents into quote-unquote topic. And here I put abstract topic as very important word because if I say to you topic, you may think that this is kind of a magical method that, given the text, it can tell you if it talks about soccer or science or politics. It's not exactly like that. The idea is that if I have a group of documents, I can group them according to the word that appear in the text. So basically, the idea is that this method can look at, by looking at the co-occurrence of words, I can group them together in topic. And the intuition is that a document is of a particular topic if that kind of that words appear often in the text. And then this is a technical detail. We use a technique called latent declared location to do the cluster analysis. And these are the topics that we found. Okay, as I told you before, the keywords are something that is automatically extracted by the algorithm. The label here is something that we did manually by looking as a guidance the keywords, but also when looking in the text. And then we manually create them. So basically, for instance, the first topic, the relevant keyword found by the algorithm are gameplay, fun, player, team, level. So probably we talk about gaming. The second, for instance, topic is about problem, anxiety, depression, feeling, mind issue. So probably it's about mental health, and so on and so forth, basically. So what do we talk about in general? And this is considering all the posts that they did in all Reddit. So they mainly talk about gaming. So gaming. The second is job, which is very interesting. So they talk about jobs on Reddit. And mental health. Now, interesting. In the comments, they talk about sex and dating. And before going, I want to go back to show you, so it will be more clear. The label sex and dating is here. The word they have a bad connotation. So man, women, guy, girl, sex, date, incel, female, male, ugly. So we'll go back later on why this is important. Then what do they talk in the NEET community? In the NEET community, they talk about jobs. And in general, they try to understand how to get a job. They talk about personal experience. And they express frustration for not having a job. But then also, mental health issues are always present. Then, as an additional subreddit, I picked Ask Reddit. It's a particular subreddit because in this Reddit, you're only allowed to post questions. And our intuition was like, okay, let's look at Ask Reddit to see if by looking at the question that they post, we can try and understand what they need. And in general, questions are mainly about jobs, again. So what degree should I pursue, what job should I take, and so on. But then they talk also about politics and society. And yeah, mental health is always present in the top 5. Then politics and society, they are not real question about needs, but they are just a question to spark a discussion and to be like entertained by the comments. From this, we try to see if this information could be used to detect groups between the needs. So we perform this called cluster analysis using spectral clustering that works more or less in this way. So basically, we have people talking about topics. The algorithm take this information and they create a graph where the vertices are the people, and the connection are the topic that they have in common. And the strength of a connection is correlated with the amount of topics that they have in common. And what the algorithm does is, okay, I see that here there's a strong connection, here there's a strong connection, so maybe these two people belong to the same cluster. And the algorithm found 5 clusters. In the first one, we have mainly people that talk about jobs and hobbies. In the second one, there are people that are struggling with meeting friends, socializing, and they play a role-playing game. This is actually, this was a kind of a funny coincidence to find, because there are studies actually that show how role-playing game could be used for helping people with social anxiety. So it was kind of interesting to find actually a cluster of people that discuss about how to socialize and discuss about also role-playing game. Then we found a whole cluster of people talking about mental health. And this is also super interesting. Then we found a cluster of people that basically just use Reddit for fun. So we discuss about gaming and hobbies and movies and music, so leisure activity. And then a whole cluster of people talking about sex and relationship. And then we also looked at where they post. And they post in subreddits dedicated to incel community. I don't know how much familiar you are with the incel community. What does it mean? So incel actually means involuntary celibate. And it's this group of people that state that they cannot find a girlfriend because they are mainly male. And they cannot find a girlfriend not because they are like, I don't know, not interested or ugly, but because the society does not allow them. And I don't want to go deep in it because I'm not an expert of this topic. And it's a very complex social phenomena that, yeah, it span across relationship problem, right-wing belief, and so on. But this was kind of it was an interesting finding here. So, discussion about how it relates with the official records. Now, as I told in the beginning, female should be more at risk than male, but okay, on Reddit, 70% of the needs are male. This is quite easy to explain. Reddit demographic is skewed toward males, young males. More interesting is about the age, that usually the age of need go between 15 to 29 years old. But here we go way beyond the 29 and reaching also the 40s, as you saw in the beginning. Regarding education, yeah, state of the art says that low education is a risk to become NEET, but actually here we have many people that, more than half, that actually obtain a diploma, a college degree, and 40% a diploma, high school diploma. Then regarding the rural area, this was retrieved by very few people, but 60% of them complained about it, that they were living in an isolated environment. Health. This was something that I stated a lot until now, and yeah, a lot of people, so 43% of Redditors state that they are suffering of some kind of mental health. This is actually mentioned in the text. And then 74% of them actually discuss about it. Associated behavior, yeah. 64% of people discuss about the sex and dating topic, but it seems strongly linked with the incel community. So yeah, we found some hint of extremist behavior. Then, okay, this is something interesting because one of the consequences of being NEETs usually is like disaffection from society. So basically, people do not care. they show lower percentage of subscription in political group. They don't care to go to vote and so on. But actually on Reddit, they seem to discuss about them. So probably one intuition here is that they are interested in politics and in society, but they don't trust the current institution. Okay, one of the other points of the state of the art was that the NEET group is heterogeneous. They are composed by a lot of different people. And this is a classification that I found in a Eurofund paper. So basically, we have re-entrants, so people that will soon re-enter to employment, short-term and long-term unemployed people. So depending basically only on for how much time they have been unemployed. We have needs for illness, disability, so people that cannot go to work because of illness. Need for family responsibility, that are people that cannot go to work because they either are taking care of a child of another family member. We have discouraged workers, that are people that stop to look for a job because they don't believe that there is an opportunity for them. And in the end, we have a volunteer need that are not working because they are pursuing our careers, like becoming an artist and something like that. Now, by looking at, in general, the group that we found and the post that we analyzed, we can safely exclude that on Reddit there are people, that on the needs subreddit there are people belonging to the re-entrance and volunteer needs group, probably because those people do not actually identify themselves as needs. We found, then regarding the need with illness or disability, we actually found a specific cluster of people talking about health issue, and which is actually cluster 3, not 4. Here is still tricky because talking about having a health issue doesn't mean that you actually have it. And also, we know that there is a link between mental health issue and being a NEET on Reddit, but we don't know the arrow. We don't know if people are NEET because they had a mental health issue, or if they are having health issues because they are NEET. Family responsibility is tricky to detect. We have more than half Redditors stating that they are living with families, but we don't know if it is actually the cause of why they are not looking for a job. Then regarding the discouraged worker, it's kind of difficult to distinguish them from the need from illness or disabilities on Reddit, because discouragement and disillusion is something that I think is a symptom of depression, so it's difficult to understand. And there are cluster of Redditors that do not talk about jobs on Reddit, but still it's kind of hard to say, okay, they are not talking about jobs on Reddit, so they are not looking for jobs. So it's kind of tricky. So summary until now, we have some similarities with the official records. Health issues seems very urgent problem. Isolation also. We have difference in the gender, probably due to the skewness of the Reddit demographic, and also in the age. What insight we got until now? As health issues, the main concern are anxiety and depression. There are hints of extremist behavior, mainly related to the incel community on Reddit. And they also seem to show a large variety of interest, varying from society, politics, to video games, music, arts, and reading and writing. Now, the interview. This was a work done by a student in the Erasmus University, supervised by Jason Pridemore. They interviewed 10 ex-NEET for different reasons, 3 female and 7 male. they were in it from since 7 months to 4 years, so they are basically between the short unemployment to the long unemployment type of needs. The interview followed a semi-structured process guided by some teams, so becoming a NEET, overcoming the NEET label, social relationship, and interaction with social media. And the questions were about the daily life, how they use social media, what were their relation with their friends and peers and family. And in their answer, they described a large number of emotional issues. They state that they felt, during the unemployment period, they felt depressed, they felt disappointed about themselves, and they had low self-worth. And this is something that we already saw also on Reddit, and also in the state of the art. Then it was interesting that they had a kind of double relation with social media, because on one side, they were seeing very successful peer, and they felt very bad about it. But then they could also use this information for reflect about themselves and for self-development. They also stated the importance of social connection, and even here they highlighted of the double effect of social media. On one side, they felt the need of interact with the so-called fake friends as a burden. But then they also saw the utility of social media for keeping connected with families. And this is interesting because this is it kind of explains on why we cannot find needs on standard social media. Because when we talk about, here we talk about social media for the family or for friends, we talk about WhatsApp, we talk about private Facebook group, which is something you cannot access. And when we talk about fake friends and we talk about social pressure by successful peers, was about Twitter, was about showing seeing that on LinkedIn your friend was getting hired by a company. And this is something that's very important that they stated, and I think this is kind of, if I ask you to remember one thing of what I said until now, it will be this. The boundaries between being a NEET and transitionist from this label are blurred. You don't stop being a NEET when you get a job. I think this is very, very important to understand. Because this is actually explain a lot of mismatch that we found between official record and Reddit. Official records state that you are a NEET if you are not employed, if you don't go to school, and if you are younger than 29 years old. But then you find people that feel that they are a NEET while they are at school. They feel that they are a NEET when they are 45 years old. So, and this is another question that I think many of you have in your mind right now. What can we do with this? I'm not a social scientist, I'm not a policymaker, so I can give you an answer from a computer science perspective. So how I can go on with this. And starting from the picture that I showed you in the very beginning. So now we have some light here, we have some information here. We know that they struggle with depression. So what we can do is, okay, let's go and explore the depression topic. That probably it's a big, I mean, this is kind of on more or less on scale of how big it is with respect of this population. And probably if I go deep in the depression topic, I can understand something more about them. Then we know that we're like gaming. So probably if I look at the gaming community in some way, I can get maybe an even better picture of Venit and Spokjongeren. Then we know also that for some reason, the insect community is involved. So if I can't study the insect community, I can get maybe some of the information. And the idea is that by looking, since it's not possible to peer into the Spokjongeren community directly, by looking at communities that have something in common, I can step by step try to build a more detailed picture. Then on how can we use this in the real world, I don't know it, and I think that you people in the audience are more knowledgeable than me about this. And yep, this was my last slide. Thank you for the attention.
In your analyses of the Reddit posts, did you also look at the differences between the nationalities?
No, I considered only English post because typically people already speak in English unless you go to location-specific subreddit. Like if you go to the Netherlands ones, they speak in Dutch, more or less. But no, the only way that we consider nationality was to look at mention of where they live, but then we stopped there.
Okay, thank you.
You can also comment. I mean, this slide was actually a question to you. How can I use this for you? Please tell me.
I can try.
Please.
Okay, healthcare can be an application of this, I think, first of all. But I think also in urban context, so for example, to solve criminality issues in some neighborhoods and understand the relationship between the criminalities in some neighborhood and make them more safety or something else. Do you think it can be a possibility?
Yeah, it's very dangerous to say yes. I mean, because it's always scary when you try to use data science technique to solve directly societal problem. There are a lot of problems that then arise.
Privacy? No.
Yeah. I was actually thinking, how can you use this in policy making? This is actually a question that we receive like often. Like, okay, but how can you use this in policy? And I like, I don't know. You tell me. You're the expert in this.
Anyone has an answer?
Yeah, not an answer, maybe a question.
I don't have the answer, but I'm wondering to what extent you can use your data for policy making, because apparently you have you collect your data from a platform that I guess people feel somehow safe, or because they're anonymous, perhaps. So I wonder to what extent the platform will be useful if people find out policymakers are interrupting in their platform. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
Is it kind of
if you want to, I think that if you want to, if a policymaker wants to start to use a platform that already exists to help the population in a certain problem, he should not do it like hiding behind a monitor. He can interact with them. He can say, hey, I'm a policymaker and I want to help you doing this. Please, how can I help you? I mean, another option is to actually go on Reddit in the Ernst subreddit and create a post there and to interact with them. Also contact them and interview them to have more insight. It's something that is possible. The point is, you should not expect that the insight that automatically are retrieved by algorithm can provide you magic answer for a problem. It's a start. We saw that the population on Reddit kind of match in some way with the need population that is described in the official records. There are some differences that actually point out that maybe there is something that official record overlook, like the self-identification problem, that people that are 45 years old identify themselves as NEET, that people that go to school, they identify themselves as NEET because they go to school, then they go home and they don't go out and they don't have any friends. But then we won't give you like a policy making answer like off the bat. So I think if you want to use, I mean, the point is the people needs to interact with them openly. Did I kind of answer your question and make everything more confused?
Yeah.
Yes.
I also have another question. That what do you think is the purpose of people being on this platform? Is it because they cannot find, they don't know any solution how to find help or assistance in real life, or is it for sharing their experiences, or are they actually thinking about solutions or discussing or giving advice to each other?
I went to the wrong direction with the ticker. But I mean, the cluster shown that they use it already for different reasons. They use it for completely leisure and they use it for a lot of different reasons, and actually, the first cluster here, in which there are people that mainly discuss about jobs, so how to obtain a job, personal experience, and then hobbies are basically, it's also the bigger one. So the majority of people on the are NEET subreddit, so basically people that we kind of assume that they are NEET, they mainly use Reddit for talking about jobs and then also to kind of talk about their free time. Because many people, NEET people, they don't actually have a lot of friends in the real world, in the physical world, and so on. So basically what we do is we stay on Reddit, they talk about the problem, and then they talk about hobbies, and we try to socialize there. Then, okay, we have a lot of other uses. We have completely like leisure activities. So basically, let's just talk about gaming, video game and stuff, and let's talk about our mental health problems. Let's discuss how society hates us and so on. So, yep.
Some difficulties to speak English for me, but I work for the policy of education. Mm-hmm. So I think the algorithm finds these clusters.
Yep.
But I think we have to have a conversation. If you want to meet my policy and I want to use your research, then you have to understand that I look through the glass of education. So I don't know if there can something be done in front of this, finding these clusters to focus on education, of high and low education.
Yeah, I totally agree that people need to meet. in order to actually develop something that will help society. So I totally agree with you. They say that, okay, I have this initial finding, then you say, okay, oh, it's interesting, let's meet to think more about an educational perspective, educational perspective of this. And we can talk, and we can, you can tell me, yeah, I'm interested to find out why they drop out from high school or drop out from college, because we have like 40% of dropout, or why they, even if 50% of them get a degree, they don't find a job. We can go deep there, and it's and we can go deeper in that direction and to understand why is this happened.
Yeah, I think that is necessary to
Yeah.
come to the policy making.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Linking to that, I think when you look at these clusters, and that there's a very diverse, it's a very diverse image that you present about this need. And even so, I think when you talk about the interviews, it's even more diverse, because you included women, for instance, and there are not so many women in these clusters.
3 women and 7
Yeah,
men.
okay, well, but anyway, you said in the beginning that females are more vulnerable to being a need. So you're missing out a part of the population. So it's a very diverse image. So I'm thinking what would be interesting to, in the end, come to policy is know how, for instance, these clusters differ in the beginning. So maybe for one of these clusters, you see mainly men, or maybe a right-wing people supporting right-wing politics, or maybe people having a high education, or there can be different predictors for these different clusters. And then afterwards, it would be really interesting to see in a couple of years how these different clusters develop. So is it maybe true that in some of these clusters, people tend to go towards criminality, or towards long-term unemployment, or towards maybe radicalization? So it will be really interesting, I think, to have a longitudinal study here, and to disentangle these different clusters.
Okay, thank you.
More questions? Comments? No? Then I would like to thank you for your presentation. And for the audience, when you come up with ideas how this research or related research can help your policy, please contact me or directly you.
My email is my first slide. Yeah.
Well, directly him. So thank you for coming, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for inviting me.